everybody, my name is Justin Grote. I'm going to show you a little something I built that is a very quick and easy PowerShell gallery mirror. So there's this thing called Cloudflare Workers. If you're familiar with Azure Functions, sorry, this should probably help. If you're familiar with Azure Functions, Cloudflare Workers are sort of like Azure Functions, except they only support TypeScript. It can only be about a megabyte in size, but when you deploy it, it gets deployed to 130 data centers around the world almost instantly. And what they're really good for is sitting as like a middleware, where you have a request coming in, and we want to do anything to that, just like you would do with a PowerShell script, modify that request, maybe do some other stuff, and then finally return a response back to the person. It's like Invoke REST method on steroids. So, in order to make that work, this is the code. It's literally about 17 lines, and even if you don't understand TypeScript, you can probably get an idea of what this is doing. First, what we're going to do is we say, hey, when we enter our program, when a request comes in, we're going to do a fetch, and that fetch has a request, just like this is like a PowerShell param block. You know, you got a request, you've got an environment with the underscore, which means I don't use that part, and you got a context, which gets me some more information there. And finally, I'm going to have a response. And don't worry about this promise thing, that's just async crazy stuff. So the next thing I'm going to do is I got this request that's going to come into my function, into my Cloudflare worker, and so I want to get the URL out of it. So it's going to go to whatever my site is. I'm going to take that URL, I'm going to rewrite it to the powershell.gallery.com. I'm going to rewrite it to HTTPS, because even if they requested unsecure, I want those requests to be secure. And then I am going to convert it to a string, and then go ahead and fetch it. So here, and then I'm going to get a response. So now my worker at this point has gone out, it's fetched whatever I've asked it to get from the PowerShell gallery. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the response, I'm going to modify it, and I'm going to go ahead and change the default caching things, because the default PowerShell caching is very tight for good reason. But for like my builds and kind of stuff, I don't care about that. I know I'm going to get the same stuff every time. So it's already gone through, Cloudflare's gone, it's cached it, now it's out in Cloudflare for this information, and then return it to the user. So in the end result, once you have that, you just simply take it, you publish it out to Cloudflare, and you get this little worker, and you can even see the code of the guy, if I can remember to find it, but I'll just go to deployment. So there I was, and I deployed it, and I went ahead just for the fun of this and registered pwsh.gallery for the site. And so here at pwsh.gallery is a full mirror of the PowerShell gallery. If you go to this, you can browse it, you can search, you can do networking, you can look at individual items, and every time you go to each site, it's all happening there, but what it's doing is it's transparently in the background caching everything you go to, so that this has two great benefits. The next time you go to it, it's going to come right from whatever Cloudflare server is right next to you. Because I'm also using a global cache, whenever this person requests the latest version of Exchange Online Management, all 120 data centers within about 2 to 3 seconds are all going to know about that new module, and that cache is going to come straight from Cloudflare and take the load off of PowerShell Gallery there too. And thirdly, if PowerShell Gallery is down, if your processes just access the same things all the time, you've already got it all cached. So if any of you have ever had a GitHub action fail because there was an issue with the PowerShell Gallery and you couldn't figure out what was wrong with your build until you found out, oh, the site was down, in this case, Cloudflare would have still been up and had that accessed. And this whole presentation was really, really compelling until Cloudflare went down yesterday, so it's not quite as compelling as it is now. But they got it back up in 45 minutes, and it still had the cache, and that only affected a few data centers, so as long as you lived in Uruguay, you were fine. You didn't get affected by what happened yesterday. But the nice thing about this is that it's just this little bit of code. You can deploy it out to Cloudflare. As I said, like this is literally the code right here, and it's in TypeScript, but like you can kind of figure it out. It's got VS Code has great TypeScript support. And this even works at the command line level. So at this point, you can go ahead and add it as a gallery. And so I went ahead and added this as a different repository, although you could just replace the PowerShell gallery completely as your default repository with your own company one. You go ahead and do a search, and you see how the AZ module, which usually takes a while to get to dependencies, I ran this a little while ago, and it took, probably about 2 minutes to get all the dependencies. I'm doing it across the Wi-Fi here, but this is actually hitting whatever closest Cloudflare worker is. There's actually one in Vienna in a data center there. And this is all just going straight to that worker, and that worker is returning the cache there. None of this is touching the PowerShell gallery at this point. So I have my own mirror of the PowerShell gallery that I was able to just put up in Cloudflare. Seems pretty rad, right? 130 different data centers around the world, my packages there. Since I can do anything there, maybe I want to shim in my own packages from GitHub, so people just go to my version of the PowerShell gallery and get the whole gallery, but they also get my private packages that they don't see when they just go to the regular PowerShell gallery. It's got to cost a lot, right? Well, Cloudflare Workers is super generous. With Cloudflare Workers, the free plan, you get 100,000 requests for free. So that's 100,000 module lookups every month for free. If you're willing to pay the exorbitant price of $5 a month, that goes up to 10 million. And then you get 20 million for every $5 after that. So for a very low investment in cost, you can have a fully redundant version of the PowerShell gallery that can be customized however you want. Whatever you can do to modify the request, the body, anything you can write in TypeScript, you can change that. So isn't that pretty neat? And the other thing is like, this is kind of PowerShell adjacent, but think about all the applications you have that you could be able to have this kind of resiliency for with just having a little bit there. So this is a little PowerShell adjacent, but this is for the PowerShell gallery. And I'm just going to leave this gallery up. It's free. It's there. If I start paying the $5 a month, you can just go to PSConfEU.gallery if the PowerShell gallery is ever down. And as long as somebody looked up your package before you, it's going to be there. So thanks very much. This is called doubting me, and I just want you to know it hurt, and I really respect your opinion, so that's why I was super fast. What I did not do is talk slow, which I suck at no matter what. I need a billboard right here of Jakob's disapproving face. Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yep. Cool. So, hello everyone. I'm Niklas. I'm from Sweden. So today I'm going to talk about a silly and quirky little module that I developed for a specific task, a PowerShell presentation, if you will. So I wanted to sort of automate a Q&A session, basically, that was presented so that I could sit back and just, have fun. And we all could have fun looking at the presentation. So, welcome.
Thank you for joining my silly session. Let's check out how this works.
Awesome. So, this is the module. Basically, it takes an input of a text string, and I'm using a COM object, which is the Microsoft Synthesizer Text-to-Speech API. And then it takes that text and speaks it out, basically. It's pretty easy. So far, so good. But then I thought, okay, so this is cool. What if I could also make the text that is being spoken, being written out at the same time in real time, sort of in sync? So I thought that would be cool. So I fiddled around a little bit, and you can pick the voices. For example, there are these built-in voices, which is the male, David, and then you have the female, which is Sari. Basically, I send in a script block to the COM object, and I create a script block in order to have it created as a background job so that the text can be written at the same time. So I use this text, this script block afterwards. We'll see it here in a bit. There were some challenges. I noticed that whenever I wanted to send the characters or the words or the letters, whenever there were special characters, I needed to wrap them in curly braces. So what I'm using for sending these characters is, let's see here, it's the vscript shell. It's basically super simple. You just create the object, and then you can send things to target windows. So I'm using the app activate to put the focus on a window that I've preset for. So as you saw in when I welcomed you here, I've got a window here. It's called Powershell Demo. Is the text fine? Can everyone see it? Okay, cool. So, and I thought, so, okay, this is cool. But the main purpose with this script was basically to have the live Q&A sort of session. So, you can create function that includes a colon, and you can sort of make up a script, a talked script basically. Like, okay, so this is the Q&A basically. You can see that it doesn't look like code, right? It looks like this is a question, this is an answer. So if I execute this.
Are you having fun yet?
Yes, we're having a blast. Haha. Text-to-speech is my kind of fun.
So, yeah, that was the original idea. And then I thought, well, it's cool to send text to another application of sorts, may it be a WordPad document or even a PowerPoint slide or whatever, and have that sort of come off in real time. So what I did is, I had to do some magic with the words, splitting up the words basically with wherever there were spaces, comma, dots, and that sort of stuff. And all of these have different pauses when they are being spoken. So I had to incorporate some sort of pause whenever these characters appeared. So these are my experimental findings. So these are in milliseconds. They are, a range of numbers because I couldn't find the precise one. So this is good enough, and it worked for me. So I didn't bother more about that. And then it breaks up the words, as I said, in all these different delimiter, if you call it, the dot, comma, etc. And then I even break up the letters or the characters themselves and write them out one per one. So really just breaking up the string back and forth. So yeah, that's what I had for you today. As I said, something quite silly and quirky, but it's cool, I think. So this is my contact info.
Thank you. Here's my contact details.
Yeah, any questions? Do we have time?
Yeah, you got 5 minutes.
Cool.
Make it say something else.
Anything else? Yeah, sure. We can go convert text to speech is the module, right? So, and I take some text. Hello, world. How are we doing today? And I'll go with the voice of the female voice. I could set target window as I've previously had created. So I'll go with, I think it was PowerShell Demo. And enable the text writer. I don't really need to do that, but I have in the beginning block of the script, if you have a target window, it's going to configure the text writer to be enabled, basically.
Hello world, how are we doing today?
So there was a bit of a delay. I don't know why. I swear to God, this has been working perfectly offline. So yeah, it was really a challenge finding, the pauses between the word and having them sentence sync. And there's also different pronunciations for sentences and words that each have their delay for when they are being spoken. So yeah, thank you everyone. That's what I had in store for you.
This thing is on? Okay. I'm good. Hey everyone. So, yes, I'm the guy running Linux on a Windows PowerShell conference. So, who of you have heard of Boxstarter before? Some, yes, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to spend a couple of my 10 minutes talking about Boxstarter, which is something I've been involved in since 2016, and actually is the reason I got into doing PowerShell. Okay, let's start. In 2016, for work, I've been researching some stuff and trying to automate our development and build server setups. The thing was, even with Chocolatey, which I eventually stumbled upon, there's been some problems, like we had to install a bunch of packages that required reboots and stuff like that. And although Chocolatey is great, it cannot handle such things on its own. And you would need to throw in something like Chef Puppet or my mouse is doing weird things, okay, to take care of that. Unless you're using Boxstarter, which is kind of just a collection of series of PowerShell commands and modules that wrap around Chocolatey. So you can do things like have your machine automatically reboot whenever it's needed after a package has been installed. It also does lots of other cool stuff, such as disabling the Windows SCCM agent and such things. So you can actually, this would be a problem in some scenarios when you're doing just normal Chocolatey package installation. So it provides even features to Chocolatey, not only doing things like reboots and remote installation, which Boxstarter is really good at. And I want to kind of hint something, a way that you would otherwise not be aware of, probably. So this is weird, like a couple of weeks, months ago, on April 27th, I did a blog post on blog.chocolatey.org, because I'm kind of maintaining a Boxstarter project now, that I'm boxing the third release, or we were boxing the third major release of Boxstarter. So since then, there's been this Boxstarter v3 beta version. And if you follow on chocolatey.org, so it's a totally different site, not the blog, but like the official Chocolatey site, there's going to be a live stream on, I really don't know what's happening here. There's going to be a live stream on 14th of July where Paul Broadwood, who you can find at the Chocolatey booth, Gary Van Park, who's like the main developer of Chocolatey now, and myself are doing the unboxing of a major release of Boxstarter. So there's going to happen something in between. You can all guess what, I guess. But don't want to spoil too much. As you already saw, I'm working on Linux like most of the time because I consider myself being a Linux fanboy. And I'm just going to kill all of the other windows and workspaces now because something's going on with my mouse I do not want to happen. And hopefully this will stop. So, just booting up some Windows VM, and I'm going to show you what Boxstarter is capable of and why you should consider using it. So this does not make it any better. Okay, so Boxstarter. Remember, Boxstarter is just a couple of modules. You get things like the Boxstarter shell, which is basically a launcher that opens up PowerShell with elevation. So you've got administrative privileges if you're in an administrative group. And then it loads the Boxstarter module, which should normally go really, really fast unless you're doing like on a slow machine as this one is. And when doing like Chocolist and ripgrep for Boxstarter, you'll realize that I'm hopefully using, the latest beta version of Boxstarter. So when using Boxstarter, you've got a lot of neat commands and extra utilities, such as creating a new Boxstarter package, which is basically a Chocolatey package on steroids. So you've got to get all of the additional features, I really don't know what this is, that Boxstarter provides you with, such as WinConfig. So you can set task manager, Explorer options, disable, enable a bunch of stuff you might not want to use. So really, really cool stuff. And if I say something like new Boxstarter package, PSConfEU demo, please work, it actually goes and creates a new Chocolatey package in this thing that's called local repository, or So let's put it this way. There's the officially Chocolatey community repository, and you can have a bunch of different sources, host your own packages, but also use like file share or a local folder as a repository. And this is what Boxstarter does by default when you just create local packages. So you can basically take any script. It can be a PowerShell script, it can be a text file, whatever, and say Boxstarter, hey, install this file. And it will create a package and install this file. But you can also go ahead and create a new package, and we're just going to look at what it's done. So it created this folder, it created a new spec, it created a tools folder with a Chocolatey install in there. And with the Chocolatey install in there, I'm going to open it, and it's got like, hello PSConfEU demo, please work. But what I'm actually going to do now is that I've got, since I'm a bit involved with this, I've got like 1 or 2 sample files somewhere around. There's like this setup host, and I'm just going to drop that content in there. Please, admin, please. Yep, it worked. Okay. So what's this doing? Maybe make it a little bigger. So there's a bunch of stuff in there, like removing unwanted AppX packages, installing some Windows features, and also installing like a package provider for NuGet. And then there's this Invoke Reboot. So what Invoke Reboot does is it actually will restart your machine and have the login credentials, when you pass them, persisted, so the machine can log in again and continue the installation. So basically all you need to do is say, hey, install this file, here are my credentials, go grab a coffee, and it will tell you when it's done. So that said, I now can invoke Boxstarter build. If I'm Boxstarter build, PSConfEU demo, please work. And it built a package. Great. What I do now is I get my credentials for this totally not fake user. And I say, hey, you know what? Install Boxstarter package, PSConfEU demo, please work, and pass, not extension, install Boxstarter package, PSCon, stupid idea to take this name, U demo, please work, credentials, I guess I named it C, right? Yeah. C. So what it does, it disables automatic updates, waits for some CCM daemon to be stopped, and then it's doing its work. So you've got a hello world from Boxstarter. This is something that's totally new in version 3 because I wanted to see if Boxstarter actually is loaded or not. So in Boxstarter version 2, there's been a couple of issues in how Boxstarter interacted with Chocolatey, and therefore I had to change a bunch of stuff. And yeah, Boxstarter v3 is like totally new. It should work in most of the cases, I hope so, because we're releasing the final version like real soon. And yeah, so the whole point is please try it out if you have not yet, and if you're using Chocolatey. And I've still got 1 minute 25, even though I'm talking pretty fast. And what we should see now is that it's actually logging in again and continuing the installation where it left off. So this is one of the main points that Boxstarter gives you. It's the reboot resiliency. You can also do things like remote installations. You can do like create an array with all the host names you want to deploy a package to and say, go install this package on, or install all Windows updates you can find, and please tell me when you're done. So this is also something we integrated in Boxstarter. Yes, it does. Continue. So it should then, now it loads the Boxstarter module again, and it will continue the package installation. Great. Thank you. I've got 30 seconds to answer questions if there are any. Great.
There were some errors before the reboot.
I saw no errors. No, yeah, there were no. Actually, yeah, there are errors again because it cannot find the package provider. So actually, errors are printed to the output, and A lot of the times you will see it rebooting a couple of times before it actually does something meaningful because it has to install Windows updates or do something first before it actually will work. So yes, errors are printed to the error stream, but usually are no thing to worry about. And if there are actual errors, just please submit an issue on GitHub. There are things looking after it. Persons looking after those things that get pushed to GitHub. Thank you.
Manfred. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a surprise special guest because we didn't have enough. So let's welcome Justin. Welcome. This is quite literally, can you do a 10-minute session in 20 minutes time? He says yes. So props. Thank you, Justin.
Hello, everybody. My name's Justin. I'm really happy to be here today. I'm really trying to take lessons from Jakob. He's got a real chill attitude when he presents. So, just kind of want to show you something I've been working on. I got this thing, how many of you have had maybe a script you gave to a user and they asked you, why does this thing not work? Okay, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to wait for them to come to you? Or even worse, they didn't tell you, and you find out about a month later, hey, how's that script gave you going? Oh, it didn't work, so I didn't use it. It's like, but that's like, we lost all of our revenue. You're supposed to process payroll. Yeah, I know, but it didn't work, so I didn't use it. So maybe there's a way we can handle this. So this kind of came about when I was playing around with my pester test extension. And I found that what you can do is you can, basically everything in PowerShell is an object. We all know that. So you can take anything that has output, any kind of script, any script block, and take the messages that come out and kind of insert your own little middleware, what happens with those before it moves on. If you've seen Jakob's profiler script, if you went to his excellent demo, you'd know what that looks like. He uses sort of the same technique. So the other thing I realized when I was trying to program something was that I wanted to use application insights and it wouldn't work with PowerShell 7. And I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized, oh, PowerShell 7 ships with the application insights module inside. It uses the DLL. When you see those statistics that you see in the keynotes about how many hundreds of millions of people are there, that information is being collected with application insights. So of course it's there. Well, maybe we can make a tool that will go ahead and bring these two things and bring them together. So I made this script, which is out on my Gist, called Trace-AICommand. What this lets you do, and it's a very long script, but don't worry about those details. What this lets you do is it lets you take any script block, any script, anything that you can put in a script block. And what you can do is you can have all the telemetry, every write warning that happens, every verbose, every debug, every exception along with its stack trace, the entire life cycle of that script as it goes through its process. You can have all of that logged to application insights. For those of you who use Azure Functions, you're well aware of this kind of capability, but you can do it for any script. So say you take a script and you hand it out to a whole group of people, you can use this to do that. And because everything that's required is built into PowerShell, it doesn't even need a module to use. So if you look at my terminal here, we'll go to the top. This is just sort of the quick command, which, first of all, never do this without reading what it is. But if you check that link, you'll see it goes to a Gist. The Gist is owned by me. It always goes to the latest commit. And that is all HTTPS set. So unless my GitHub account gets compromised, or I decide to be mean to you, that's probably going to be pretty trustworthy. But don't take my word for it. Go to that link first before running this, and make sure for yourself you read the code of what it does. Always do that. Never do this except when I tell you to. So, the next thing we have is we have kind of a simple script. There's nothing really here. We have a sort of sentiment collector. And all it is just a script that asks you some information about yourself, asks you your mood, and depending on if you say if you're angry or not, throw an error and try to handle that, but otherwise freak out. So in order to use this, so here's basically how this works. You take Trace-AICommand after you've imported it that way. You can optionally name it, otherwise it just gets called PowerShell script in Application Insights. And then you can just, in the script block, put whatever you want. You can put a regular script, you can call a function, you can put anything in there that you want. And so I'm going to show an example where you can actually nest this. I don't have time to show it right now, but I'll show the results. Is if I go to, where to go? Here we go. So here's an example where I have a parent script and it calls a child script, and sometimes it fails and comes back around, and sometimes it goes here and comes back around until it gets to this sub. This is simply just Invoke AI-Command nested inside each other. If you look at the script logic, it automatically handles that and realizes, oh, I'm inside another AI command, so this must be a dependency. And so you get automatic dependency mapping for your script. If your script has multiple functions or you're trying to track down a problem, this breaks it down into a nice view of it. And in terms of the instance, if you look at the instance, you have all the details of what that instance is. When you go to compute, this forget that one. But if you go to here, you'll see that's the name of my computer. So if I were to run this and hand it out to people, I might see 7 instances, and I can see the names of the 7 different computers. All of this is optional. Some of us always get nervous about telemetry. Obviously, you can turn this up and down as much as you want to make it anonymous. But this gives you a nice map where you can see, oh, here's this particular invocation that ran. And if there's an error, you see where 5% of my things are failing. I can look at that and click Investigate Failures. And I can look at this and see this script failed. Here's all the times it failed. What are the most failing functions inside my script? And again, all I did was just use the Invoke AI command around my script block. I didn't have to put anything in there, and nested some Invoke AI commands. I go to the next item here. And so I can see, hey, Application Insights recommends me, hey, this is the most common thing that we see with this application. Would you like to see an end-to-end transaction of what happened when the user ran your script? Sure. So I can go here and I get a complete breakdown of my script. And if you were in Jakob's session, he talked about like flame charts and burn down charts. This gives you a nice timeline of your process, what happened, each step, what occurred, where the exception occurred. In the exception, all the details, including the script stack trace, so you can figure out exactly where in your script it broke. As well as where's computer ran it, the specific exception. You can click show what happened before and after if this connected to another script, but this was a non-terminating exception. And all of your telemetry that you had in that script. So every write verbose, every write warning, basically what your PowerShell output was, but as distinct individual records. So this was a warning. You can see a severity level warning. And that lets us do searching through all of this. If I want to find a warning that says parent, but I want to find all the ones that are after this certain date, but only occurred on these computers, if you know the Cousteau query language, if Microsoft Sentinel, that kind of thing, you can gather that information however you want. So with my remaining 2 minutes, since I am perfectly on pace, I'm going to show this live. So we'll go ahead and go back to my telemetry. Go to my application map and remove my contrived example and just have this show the last 30 minutes. So I am going to go here and I'm going to run this, and it's going to ask me, things are looking good for this process, just like an example of showing, recording the process in my telemetry so I know where it is. What's my mood today? I'm pretty angry. Well, unfortunately could not find the path to my happiness because it does not exist. So it's going to sleep for a bit and see if my mood improves. How about now? I feel like Rob every morning. Well, I'm glad you aren't angry anymore, at least. Okay, how about now? Let's do it again. Oh, I'm getting angry again. Well, couldn't find the path to happiness. Sleep a bit, see if it improves. How about now? I'm still angry. Well, unfortunately, it didn't know what to do, so it bailed out. So if I go here and I refresh, sometimes this telemetry takes a second, but it always happens in the background of your script. It doesn't affect the performance of your script. I've run this against a script that processes 6,000 distribution lists and only added a second to the runtime of a typical 7-minute script. And when I refresh, you'll see now I have 4 calls to this instance. I can investigate the failures. I can see all the, I can see everything about it for things that went well as well. And I can look at my failure here for my item not found exceptions. And I have that. And since I have 30 seconds, I'm just going to quickly jump to the transaction search. And I'm just going to search for Rob. And we can find in my transactions, there's a trace here, the user, I feel like Rob every morning. And I can go to this and see the full details for this transaction, the timeline of what happened, the time that it ended, and where that exception occurred in the timeline of the code before it continued on. So that's Trace-AICommand. Thank you very much.